Yeah. I think Mary and Kobe are watching.
No, last
All
thing.
right, you guys are live.
Hey, thanks, Josiah, and thanks everybody for joining
Hey.
us here live. It's been a quite a week. Ups and
Mm-hmm.
downs, ups. We got to drop off our kids at Franciscan University of Steubenville and unloaded 25% of our offspring in a single week, which was quite a
Bittersweet.
bittersweet.
Yeah.
Bitter in that saying goodbye, but sweet in the fact that I wouldn't want them any other place on earth. Not living
No.
on my couch till they're 35.
Mm.
It's time to go forward in life, and what an awesome
Oh.
school to do that at. So,
Yeah. No, we're very blessed on being that dorky mom that's just sporting it. I miss my kids,
Franciscan swag.
But yeah, it does come to an end, everybody. Just this screeching halt you don't realize. So
Yeah.
just love them up while you can.
Days go by slow, years go
Yeah.
by fast. So,
Yeah, it's true.
so the joy of that, and then obviously the suffering, which we wanted to dive into today. In terms of the what happened yesterday, I was driving on the freeway, and when a college friend texted me and let me know what happened with the school shooting, I had 5 of my kids in the car on the way to their Catholic elementary school, and man, as a dad, it hits you. I mean, as a parent of kids, you can't even fathom, the suffering that these families are going through. And so we wanted to take a little time tonight and kind of debrief and run through this. If you got questions or want to talk to us about how to process the whole thing, it's come out obviously clearly that the shooter is somebody who identified as trans. And so there's been a lot of commentary on that, at least from some networks. Other networks found that out and just dropped it like a story. Well, okay, that never happened. Let's just move on with the other news. Really interesting to see how they're handling the whole situation. That, if this individual had won a swimming tournament, a week ago and identified as trans, they'd be like, she. But now that this atrocity takes place, that they're like, nope, we're not going to that pronoun. We will just avoid pronouns altogether. We're not going to gender this person at all. We'll speak about them as they or them or the shooter, because we can't say he because it's not politically correct. Can't say she because then it would reveal how bankrupt this whole ideology is from the get-go. So it's been real interesting watching how they're handling the whole situation. But lots of questions on the whole subject of gender. Questions of, where's God in the midst of all of this suffering? Some people saying, just prayers and thoughts are not enough. I heard today from the police report that there were 119 bullets fired total. And one death is too many, obviously, but the fact that only 2 lives were lost out of 119 bullets fired, I think there's grace there and stories of heroism that are arising from the ashes, the whole mess. And so, but hearts and prayers, thoughts go out to the family as well. But yeah, what were your initial thoughts? And then we can dive into the gender stuff, and Josiah has unearthed some interesting information as well that we want to process.
My heart was breaking, and just I was thinking of my children, and they go to a Catholic school, but you also think of the countless lives that were in that church and those children who are just getting started. I mean, this going up to 8th grade, and their lives are forever changed. Each one of those families and their trajectory, and it affected just all of them in different ways in their families. And we've just been praying for them, and God knows. And I mean, he's got them, but at the same time, these are those times where your faith really just kicks in, and you just have to hand it over to God's mercy and his love, and that he's going to take care of it.
And people have been asking me left and right what my take is on the whole thing in terms of the intersection of this with the whole subject of gender. And I think if there's, one takeaway that I really want to emphasize is that I don't believe that people who identify as trans, non-binary, whatever, experience gender dysphoria, I don't think they're getting the mental health services that they deserve and that they need. I think there's been such a push amongst LGBT activists to destigmatize gender dysphoria, pushing it so far out of the realm of mental health that it's like, no, this is totally normal. For a man who believes himself to be female, some of which are undergoing serious surgeries to mutilate their own bodies. Total picture of mental health. Nothing to see here. Everything's fine. And the psychologists that I've spoken to, the literature that I've read on this, which is, I've read tens of thousands of pages of literature on the whole subject of gender dysphoria, is very clear that people who experience gender dysphoria It's typically one point on a whole constellation of mental health issues that these individuals are going through, from major depressive disorder to anxiety. Lisa Littman was a woman who worked for Planned Parenthood, researcher for Brown University, and she's the one who coined the term rapid onset gender dysphoria. In her literature, she discovered in one population she was studying, which is a large one, that 60% of the young people who identified as trans or non-binary, 60% of them had a diagnosable psychiatric disorder prior to experiencing gender dysphoria. Now, this is not kids saying, oh, I'm depressed because people don't accept me as non-binary, and that's where it's all coming from, is the gender issue. No, these were pre-existing psychiatric conditions, and then the gender dysphoria piece came in later, and what often happens through gender-affirming care is, well, that's the issue right there. That's everything, and so if we can just, give you some cross-sex hormones and puberty blockers and a surgery, life is going to be great, and if anyone disagrees with you, they hate you. This rhetoric is so dangerous. This idea that if anyone disagrees with you, they hate you. Then you have an individual like this school shooter who perhaps binged on this ideology and thought, like, wow, all these people hate me. And he apparently, I don't know if it was in the manifesto or elsewhere, actually said that he hated that he's been brainwashed by this whole trans thing, that he even hated himself. And so it's typically a whole stew of mental health issues. And the problem is when we flatten all of these layers of psychological distress into one layer of the diagnosis, you're trans, then the only solution is transition. And so these individuals need a heck of a lot more than this bogus ideology that they are trans and that this is the only path to fulfillment. And so, a heart goes out not only all to the families that are suffering from the shooting, but I think it takes an extra step of mercy to imagine the family of the shooter himself. The mother was a secretary at this parish, and it's distressing when you find out that the mom is the one who signed the paperwork for this kid, apparently in public school, saying yes, he wants to identify as female and use the name Robin instead of Robert, and they went the whole legal name change business. But obviously very complicated issue. But let's just try to remember that the majority of people who identify as trans would never commit an atrocity like this. They need love. They need clinical intervention. They need support. The last thing they need is a transgender ideology telling them that this is just who they are, and if anyone disagrees with you, they must hate you. Nothing could be further from the truth. So, any thoughts on that? Or Josiah, want to chime in with the research you've been doing?
I mean, a little bit.
Yeah.
So I did some math today. Um, based on the broadest definition of a school shooting, which is just that it took place on school property during school hours or a school-sanctioned event, and where any individual other than the perpetrator has a bullet wound resulting from the incident. So this doesn't count some things that are counted in a lot of other numbers, but the broadest honest definition, there's 229 school shootings since 2018. The current most recent data from sorry, I gotta find the citation here in my notes. The current most recent data from the Williams Institute has the the population of transgender people in the United States at 0.8%. And based on that data from the Education Week on school shootings, there have been, and we count just the four high-profile school shootings done by trans people, which were
Nashville,
Denver STEM Academy, Nashville, Iowa, and the most recent one. That's 1.7%. So that's a 200% representation. In other words, per capita, it doesn't mean they're twice as likely to do it, but per capita, a school shooting perpetrator is twice as likely to be trans as not trans.
Wow. Even though 98% of the actual school shootings are someone who would not identify as trans. Per capita, it is a disproportionate amount of human beings committing these acts.
Yeah.
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 So,
And that I wasn't able to, I was trying to break down um, non-students K through 8, but I wasn't able to find a data breakdown for that. So that's some research that could probably be done further.
yeah,
Just because like a non-student at a K through 8 school, um, specifically was Nashville,
yeah,
um, and
Wow.
Annunciation now yesterday. So
yeah. Yeah, and
yeah.
you even look beyond just the acts of physical violence to human beings, but desecration of church property. I remember I was speaking once up at a parish in Alaska on the subject of gender, and before I got there, the parish was vandalized. The person, threw nails all over the parking lot, spray painted graphic sexual images in red spray paint all over the exterior of the church. Now the priest took it in stride, and he, told the parish, he said, hey, in preparations for Jason's talk on theology of the body, I commissioned some frescoes to be painted for the parish. They didn't quite turn out as we had hoped, so we'll have the Knights of Columbus paint over those a little bit later. But I think a lot of these acts of violence, I think that when I was out in Australia speaking on the subject of gender, and a protester dumped a can of tomato soup on my head in front of 1,000 people, the reaction that I had immediately after experiencing that myself is, what must this individual have gone through to create such hatred within them that they would need to act out in these particular manners, whether it's a school shooting, dumping tomato soup, vandalizing a Catholic church. They're living out of a particular wound. And to me, this wound is infected by gender ideology, of telling people that if people disagree with you, they hate you. All of them hate you, unless they completely, hook, line, and sinker go along with anything you want to believe or express. Those people hate you. And so that type of mentality to me is so damaging to people who are already under plenty of mental health stress, and it's only making these issues worse. And so the core issue of experiencing gender dysphoria means that there is a disconnect between these individuals and reality. And then when you add this on top of that, it's a lighter fluid to the whole issue. And so I think it's important that we don't go out here and treat young people who experience gender dysphoria as lepers, as you're the cause of all this problem. And I think we need to give them the compassionate care they need, the mental health services that they require, which is the furthest thing from the gender affirmative care they're going to get in a lot of these public schools and secular psychologists.
One thing I saw them talking a lot about today was how much the transitioning drugs are actually affecting their mental well-being.
Yeah.
And it's just causing this just
really
unstable system.
Yeah. No, the literature is clear on it. Like, for example, when you put a adolescent female on puberty blockers, she's more likely to self-harm than she was before going on the puberty blockers. And it's like, yeah, this is going to solve the problem. So you read, the insert packet that comes with the medication, and it says this will cause crying, irritability, anger, could contribute to depressive symptoms. Like, this is the laundry list of what you tell this drug is preventing, and the label says it contributes to these things. Obviously, giving girls 40 times as much testosterone as they should have in their bodies is not a good thing. I mean, it's the same level as if she had an androgen-secreting tumor in her body. Now, granted, most of these school shootings, acts of violence, are taking place amongst typically young males in their late teens or early 20s, as opposed to the females. I don't know. I don't have any case history on this individual, whether he was on these kinds of hormones or was just in the process of social transitioning. But we see for him in this manifesto that even he was in hatred of himself for saying that he was brainwashed by these trans ideas. But in the same respect, he had trans flags on his journals. He hated Israel. He hated Donald Trump. He hated the Catholic Church, children. Like, there's just foaming and fuming with hatred. And so to me, it's not simply a psychological issue. There's demonic factors at play. There's spiritual warfare going on here. To treat it like it's simply a sociological problem, a psychological problem, is missing a massive piece. Because if you're I don't know the kid's history, what he'd been through, the suffering, the wounds, I don't know. But when those wounds aren't tended to, it's a real portal of entry for evil in the young person's life or for any person's life. And so there's a spiritual component. One of apparently his classmates, who was I think with him in seventh or eighth grade, said that it was demonic what was going on. And so I think we need to be really approaching this from a truly human perspective, not just spiritual, not just psychological, not just sociological. Look at the full picture, and it's only from there that I think we'll have an adequate answer.
Yeah.
I want to tell people this because this is a thing that has was known from an incident earlier this year in January. I don't know if people remember the Nashville Audrey Hale shooting at the elementary school is a separate incident from Nashville earlier this year at Antioch High School. And that perpetrator was in a group called O9A, O9A, which is a satanic like online cult. And another group that I won't name because I was unaware of it till after the shooting, and when I looked into it, I really wished that I hadn't. But Robert Westman was actually in O9A and had one of O9A's logos in one of his
Wow.
profiles on a niche image board where a lot of these people are. And I know I feel like I say it literally every week now. Please be aware of what your children are doing on the internet,
Yeah.
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there can be no spiritually empty space. We have this rising generation of what are called nuns, Nones, that I'm not religious, I'm not anything. I might be a little spiritual, but, no denomination, no faith, no nothing. I'm none. But the empty space is going to be filled by either the Holy Spirit or unholy spirits. That's just what it comes down to. And so when we disinvite the Holy Spirit, the Lord, the giver of life, what you end up with is the opposite. One who is not Lord, one who is a taker of human life. And so, yeah, I think it's important that we address the spiritual reality of what's going on and the need for God. And so when you have politicians saying, look, prayers aren't enough and, thoughts, I get part of what they're saying, like we need public policy to keep these kids safe, but to undermine the importance and the power of intercessory prayer when dealing with demonic realities is precisely what the demons want. Yeah, don't do that prayer thing. Just make more laws. Because the reality is when you've got individuals dabbling in this level of evil, you could put a SWAT team in front of every single elementary school in the world and they'll just find a soft target elsewhere. They can just go to the soccer field. They can just go here. They can just go there because it's the heart of the human person that is going to find an outlet for good or evil one way or the other. Not to say we shouldn't protect our kids in every measure possible. We should. But looking for the solution to the culture of death is not simply about legislation and public policy. It's about creating an actual culture of life. I mean, how do we as a government essentially say, now you shouldn't take innocent human life, but abortion, it's up to the states. It's like, well, wait a minute. We have legislated killing the most innocent, defenseless human beings, and then we want to tell people that they can't do that once the kids are born. Like it's either a culture of life or it's not. And so we've got to deal with it on more levels, in my opinion, than just legislation. So,
Yeah.
but
More thing.
yeah,
I'm going to say a thing.
yeah, say a thing.
The shooter had "Where is your God now" written on his magazines, on at least two of them, I think.
Yeah,
And then the mayor, right after the shooting, came out and said, and I'm going to get the exact quote wrong, but this is really close to what he said. Don't say thoughts and prayers because they were literally praying when this happened.
yeah.
That guy should be ashamed
Mm-hmm.
because the thrust of what he is saying is no different than "Where is your God now?"
Oh yeah. Yeah. And
He's saying that shooter was correct to say that God was not there, and he should be ashamed, and we should call him on that. We should say publicly that guy that Mayor Jacob Fry agrees with the shooter that God was not present in that church.
Mm-hmm. It's the same echoes of was spoken to Christ on the cross. You read the book of Psalms, and people mock. Where's your God now? And well, he's right there. He's on the cross. If any God knows human suffering, it's the God of Christianity. And not just him, but did you see the former White House press secretary, what she had to say?
Jen Psaki.
Oh yeah,
Jen
can
Psaki,
you read
Ilhan
that? Can you
Omar.
pull that up? Her
Yeah, I
tweet.
can pull it up.
Yeah,
I've got a
read this
list,
tweet.
Jason. You think I don't have a list of these people and what
Oh.
they said?
Oh, yeah, pull this up. Read this. Former White House press secretary.
And we have to read what JD Vance said because he was killing it.
Did he
Dude.
light her up?
Yeah, he did.
I would hope so, like a Christmas tree.
Because he's our guy.
Yeah.
Gosh, I gotta find it. Okay, here it is.
Yeah.
Prayer is not freaking enough. She actually also did write freaking, which is just a weird thing. But okay. Prayer is not freaking enough. Prayers does not end school shootings. Prayers do not make parents feel safer sending their kids to school. Prayer doesn't bring these kids back. Enough with the thoughts and prayers. That's
Wow.
what she said.
And then JD Vance's response?
We pray because our hearts are broken. We pray because we know God listens. We pray because we know that God works in mysterious ways and can inspire us to further action. Why do you feel the need to attack other people for praying when kids were just killed praying? Of all the weird left-wing culture wars in the last few years, this is by far the most bizarre. How dare you pray for the innocent people in the midst of tragedy? What are you even talking about?
No, I mean, the libs are just burying themselves deeper and deeper every other day, it seems like, how they're handling all this stuff. So, yeah, not prayer. The entire community is turning to prayer. God is not there. No, God is in the midst of that suffering, And the fact that, I mean, God forbid, as I said, only 2 lives were lost, but the fact that 119 bullets flew into that crowd and his handgun jammed, so he couldn't shoot any more out of that. Like, I don't know. To me, God's there. So, I mean, how would you even measure? I mean, how do we know how many school shootings, lives are saved, not saved by prayer? I remember seeing recently this guy, and you can find this on YouTube. He was going on a jog and he saw an ambulance in a driveway and he's like, well, should I pull in there and help? I don't know who that person is. And he said, no, they're obviously taken care of. They got EMT on the scene. I'll just say a Hail Mary and I'll keep going on my way. And he continued his jog. A couple weeks later, he's jogging in the same neighborhood. It's not a place where he really knows anybody. He's jogging, someone's yelling, towards him. And he's like, I don't know you. I'm just going to keep jogging. And they're yelling to get his attention. Like, hey, you. And the guy stops like, can I help you? And the lady's like, you saved my life. And he's like, I'm sorry, ma'am. Like, we haven't met before. And she said, oh, yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I, had a life-threatening emergency. The ambulance came and I was about to die. And Jesus appeared to me and said that you were to die, but because of this man's prayers, and she said Jesus held his hand out, and the guy's face was on the palm of the hand of Christ, and said, because of this man's prayer, you will live. And apparently she was resuscitated, came back to life, and so she saw his face jogging by and yelled to get the guy's attention. And how on earth could she have known that he was praying a Hail Mary jogging by, recognized him in that vision that she had? So prayers work. Prayers answer, and just because there's human suffering does not mean that God is not present. If the former White House press secretary was sitting there in Calvary, she'd be like, where's God in this mess? Here's a mother, in tears off of the loss of her son, dying, tortured before her eyes. Where's God? God's on the cross, and God is in the midst of those families and comforting them, and God will reunite, and every tear will be wiped from all of those faces, reunited in heaven with those children. And there was the slaughter of the holy innocents at the time that Christ came into this world, and still human suffering is a part of human life. But to me, if God isn't the answer, what is? What's the solution? That all of us are just random particles that exist because of just random mutations through billions of years that came into existence out of nothing, that have no objective meaning, and every form of human joy is ultimately meaningless. Every form of human suffering and injustice has no justice. There's ultimately no mercy. Once you pass across the stage of human existence, the curtain is shut and nothing is heard from you again. You fall into an oblivion of absolute nihilism and nothingness. You want to go with that? Yeah, good luck. That's the exact type of nihilism that was at the heart of this tragedy of violence, that meaninglessness of God does not exist. He's not real. He is real. He's with us in the midst of the suffering, and every single injustice will be made right, and every tear will be wiped from their faces. So that's my take.
Yeah.
So
We have a patron. We have a patron raising their hand.
oh, let's take it.
So, all right, Gabriel invited you to speak. You should just push join stage. There you are. Gabriel, you can talk whenever you're ready.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi. First of all, I just wanted to say that what you were just saying about God being there in the pain and sorrow, and there when His Son's dying on the cross, and in all the sufferings that we see in the world. That's really how I know God. You know, as I'm going to share in a second here just about some of the things that I've been through, and a couple of questions alongside that. But I just really appreciate your guys' faith in the way that you expressed just faith in God in the times of darkness. That I really, that's how I see God and how I know God.
Yeah.
What's your question?
So I grew up in a household where I was sexually abused by my older sister. And when I was an older teenager, I was groomed and taken advantage of by a female youth minister at the Catholic youth group that I went to. A few years ago, right after I graduated, my mother died suddenly. My dad got sick, and I had to take care of my dad and all my brothers and sisters, including the sister who abused me. Moving to a different city and working to provide for my family financially. It's about 4 years later now. I'm 24. My family is stable, so I don't have to work and sacrifice the way that I did. And I've recently felt on my heart the call to marriage. And I wanted to ask Jason and Crystalina, I've been aware of and involved with your ministries in some capacity for many, many years now. I've really appreciated you and your I've really appreciated you and all of your ministry. And I wanted to ask Crystalina, how do you learn to trust the opposite gender when you've been hurt by them?
First of all, thank you for your honesty and your vulnerability and your courage, Gabriel, for just even coming on and asking that question. And you've been through a lot, but it seems like God has been with you, and God's grace and His healing power is also with you. It was really difficult for me because, just like you, I was sexually abused, and it really it rocks the core of who you are and who you think you can be or what you're capable of. And it almost puts a cap on what you think you can have in life and how much love you think you deserve or don't deserve. It's really a cage. But it took a lot of healing, and it took a lot of time to be with Jesus in the Eucharist. And I became incredibly Eucharistic. And Jesus is the healer. He is the light. He's love. He's mercy. And you need to take everything to Him. Stay close to the sacraments. And there are a couple things. Actually, when we dropped our kids off at college, I had a really serious, like, mama convo, I like to call them. When I talked about conversations, this is a convo. And they know when I say that, I mean business. And I think this goes for anybody that's going through a lot or discerning, or they're not sure what to do, or they're being called in a certain direction, is go to confession and make sure you're staying in confession, and just make sure you're right with God and being just pure and kind of opening those lines to His grace is a huge thing. The second thing is, after that, go sit with Him in adoration and take all of these things on your heart, your fears, your worries, your concerns, your family, everything, and really talk to Him about, if you're ready, your hopes for the future, all of it. Just give it to Jesus. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't hear God. And I say, well, I don't believe you, because in the depths, and I've said this numerous times on this podcast, in the pit of hell that I had myself in, if I was drunk or high or I was at a bar or whatever was going on, I still heard God's voice saying, don't do that. Don't go there. Don't wear that. You still hear him, but it's really a matter of obedience, right? If you really actually want to do it. And most people don't. So they just keep doing what they're doing. And I would say it took a lot of time in adoration for God himself to actually heal me, because I couldn't even see Jesus as a man. I would have nothing to do with him. I'd see him on the cross and just, he was a man. I was kind of disgusted, to be honest, because of things that happened to me because of a man hurting me. And so it was Eucharistic Jesus. I was able to get over that, and slowly in adoration and with my own healing, and just staying incredibly close to the sacraments and making sure I was going to counseling, which I think is huge, and especially your own healing for your future family and your wife. Just go to adoration and make it a weekly thing if you can. And it's going to change your life. And if you're ever confused in a situation, it's another thing I told my kids. If you ever just aren't getting an answer, or there's something you're really struggling with, or there's just some stronghold or something that's just there, won't go away, you need to fast. And you need to just take it seriously and just fast, and God will give you the grace, he'll give you the knowledge, or he'll give you something to help you or break that stronghold. Because, I mean, that's exactly what Jesus told us. There are certain things that just can't be broken or can't be overcome, or demons cannot be cast out without prayer and fasting. So I would also fast for that as well, because I think there might be some bondage there, like I had. Maybe I might just be assuming this, Gabriel, but when it comes to these things, there's a lot of fear surrounding it, and you can live out of that wound of fear, and you don't want that, because Jesus tells us, like, directly and straight up, do not fear. And so when there is fear, that's where you bring Jesus' light. And the closer you get to Jesus, the devil cannot follow you to the light, and you'll have more clarity. So go to Jesus. I'm telling you, it's the most powerful thing that you can do, is to be in the will of God, to go be in his presence. And maybe you just sit there and nothing happens, but I would really encourage you to get a counselor and then go to adoration right after that, and just kind of sift through these things. Does that help?
Yeah, I'd heard it once said that trauma isn't simply suffering something. Trauma is suffering something in the lack of the presence of an empathetic witness. Meaning you go through it and then no one is there to validate the suffering. And what that often leads to is we don't even validate it, in the sense that, yeah, there's that suffering, there's that loss, there's that grief, there's that injury, but I don't need to go back there. I don't need to live my life in the rearview mirror. I'm just going to plow forward. I'm going to keep busy. I'm going to be productive. I'm going to do this or do that. Or just we're going to find some false consolations. We just don't need to be in that place. But I think in order to move forward, you have to have a safe spot where you can grieve the loss of who that youth minister was supposed to be for you, of leading you towards innocence, to grieve the loss of authentic sisterhood that you were deprived of, to grieve the loss of your own mother, to be able to do that in a safe place. That's why a good counselor could maybe say, hey, I think there may be some PTSD stuff going on here, where you had this trauma, and then it's getting triggered by these events where you're feeling like, I'm not safe in this place, or I can't be safe with a wife. But it's really taking the trauma from the past and making it present. A good counselor could say, hey, maybe EMDR would be good, where we can kind of go back to those old memories and kind of reprocess the way that your mind thinks of that trauma. And so just to make sure, I think it's a real gift to yourself, to your future wife, if God's calling you to marriage, to find a good therapist. CatholicTherapist.com has a pretty exhaustive list, zip code by zip code nationwide. Now, we obviously can't endorse every single person that's on that website, but it tends to be a pretty good directory of finding decent Catholic therapists that can help you in that process. So that'll give you the opportunity to authentically go back to those places, to grieve the loss as they need to, and realize that just because my past looks like that, it doesn't cripple you from the ability to have a loving and trusting and intimate relationship. Because the whole point of getting through that trauma and through that counseling is for the sake of communion, for the sake of intimacy, to be able to have that love. And if you can know, hey, that's the goal. The goal isn't just to heal it, that it's done, that it quit bothering me. The goal is intimacy. The goal is communion. And counseling is simply the means to be able to give and receive that love.
Have you gone to counseling already? I'm assuming because of what you've experienced and you're already 24. Have you experienced counseling yet or no?
I have been to counseling. Yeah, I'm not currently in counseling, but I've been. There's like a couple of periods of a couple of years at different times.
Okay.
Also, go ahead.
Yeah, and I also really have found in faith in a consecration to the Blessed Virgin.
Yeah.
And I consecrated myself to Mary about almost exactly a year before my mom died.
Was it the St. Louis de Montfort consecration?
Yeah.
Yeah. Join the club, baby. We're in the club.
Got my cane right here.
Good for
That
you.
one, Father Mike Gately has a good one, 33 Days of Morning Glory.
So
and then
powerful.
Everyone I discovered, I think the author's name is Joshua Elsner, I think is his name. And that one's more of just building that personal, intimate relationship with Mary. Just because Crystal talked about how there was a blockade between her and Christ because it was a man that did those things to her, and so it's kind of hard. So the fact that you're able to entrust yourself to Our Lady and to build that healthy maternal relationship and have her as a sister in Christ, I think that's going to go a long way to healing some of these wounds as well.
Father Pine also has a Marian consecration that I really liked. I found really helpful.
Who?
Father Gregory Pine.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
No.
Gabriel, one thing I do want to ask that I think could be a serious danger, and I'm just going to say it might be harsh, but I don't know how much healing your family has undergone, but if they have not, and you've gone through so much, especially, I don't know, with your sister, to think about when you do get married or you have a family, you're going to have to protect your family from those family members. Is that something you've thought about?
Over the past couple of years, I did not want to have anything to do, after I was an adult and my sister had just gotten married, and I didn't want to have anything to do with her at all anymore. And then my mother died, and I had to be the head of the house, head of the family, and so I couldn't not communicate with her. I had to make sure she was able to get to the funeral stuff.
Yeah.
And be a part of my dad's life, my rest of my family's life, because she had just had a baby, right? So that's my dad's grandchild and my niece, and right. So
yeah,
it was a real. I think one of the things that's really is a real struggle, but also healing for me over the past few years is after my consecration to Mary, I felt like being put in the position that I have to take care of my family, puts me in a position of being able to make sure my family is protected, like that. I know what I'm doing. I know what my family structures look like, and I can give some direction, and I feel like the work that I've had to do over the past number of years has done a lot for healing me and putting me in a position of control over my own life through my dependence on the Lord.
Yeah. Well, God bless you for all the hard work that you've put into that whole effort. I know God's going to make it bear great fruit. Just stay on track. And if you feel the need to get back to counseling, don't hesitate to do that. And again, also just thank you for your support through Patreon and supporting this mission so we can help get the message out to more people as well.
Gabriel, one thing and one resource that was huge in my life and almost brought me to the next level of my healing that I did was something called Grief to Grace. And that was life-changing for me. it absolutely was life-changing to me with my relationships, my spirituality. It just really was able to heal those really deep wounds of almost like residue. I felt like it was that I just couldn't get past no matter what I was doing. And Bishop Olmsted really encouraged me to do this, and I trust him so much. And I went, and it was, like I said, absolutely life-changing. So Grief to Grace, if you could go on one of those retreats at some point, it's a 5-day intensive retreat, but it's like you go in one person and you come out the other, and it is life-changing. So I would really encourage you to do one of those before you set out and you start dating someone.
Thank you so much, guys, for your ministry and the conversation here today. God bless
Thank you, Gabriel. God bless you. We'll be praying for you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Oh, that was nice.
That's nice. Okay. Email question here.
Okay.
I'm a man. I have a female friend who complains about not getting asked out. She does not dress or act very feminine. How do I tell her if she wants to get guys' attention, she should dress and act more feminine?
You know, if I'm going to be honest and just straight, that's all we have time for. So this is the thing. She complains about it, but sometimes there's a lot of fear there, and it's easier to put it on the opposite sex, and it's easier to not be feminine and not be attractive. Maybe if you have past wounds like Gabriel talked about, and it's a way of almost deflecting the fact that she knows she's not getting any dates, and it's a way to have a conversation with this opposite sex person too as well, with her friend. But at the same time, deep down, if she wanted to date and she knows things that she should be doing but just doesn't, and at the end of the day, he should be able to be a real friend and actually just tell her the truth really kindly, lovingly, gently. Just tell her straight out. Well, if you want to date someone, then maybe you should do A, B, and C. But it's not a put down on her, but at the same time, don't just sit there and complain about it and then not do anything either. You know, it's like, there's no grace in that at all.
Yeah, and I would try to. What
would be like some phrasing that you think would? Because I assume that kind of is the question. Like, what is a thing I can say? Like, how would I phrase that? How do I have that discussion?
Yeah, I wouldn't go after it in terms of like, now you need to change this and you need to change that and you need to change this. But like, hey, I think you're an awesome person. I really hope you find someone special that's like a great match for you. And for me, you could say sometimes girls are hard for me to understand. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what it is they want. So I just want to share with you some insights that I think I might have to male psychology that could help you to understand what it is guys are looking for. And so that way it's like, ooh, I'm getting the inside scoop on the way what guys think and what they're interested in. So it's more like this extra intel that she's getting from you as opposed to a critique of her lack of feminine behavior, mannerisms, or outfits. And so I would try to present it that way and just explain that, like, you know, femininity is really attractive to masculinity. I mean, that's why there's been this huge explosion of the whole trad wife thing. It's like, wait a minute, you're wearing a sundress and you want to be with your own children? And you'll cook food? Like, sign me up, you know, like, that's all I need. Like, just, you know,
It's true.
You know, it's like,
he's right.
And they're like fiercely attacked. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
It's great. That's a whole other conversation, but
it is. But I mean, those simple principles have created this whole surge of like, what the heck? Like, it's that simple? Like, you guys really just want some respect and love and femininity and a woman who just wants to be the heart of her home.
And it's not a weakness.
Yeah.
That is not a weakness. It's
No.
honestly a strength that women have. And you can tell her very gently.
Yeah, and maybe a weakness that they feel that they don't have. It's like, I just
Or don't know
have
how.
that
I didn't know
elastic,
how.
You know, bone in my body. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
It's like, learn. Like find good
Yeah.
female mentors, you know, who exude not just pure stereotypical femininity, but a woman who's really a graceful woman of God and living that out, embracing her vocation. Spend time with that woman. And, you know, and obviously I think if you're taking it from the approach of like, hey, here's an inside scoop of what guys are ultimately looking for, then I think she can put two together and decide, okay, how attractive do I want to be? And I don't think she has to change her whole personality and, dress in twirly outfits every single day of the week if that's not what she's into. But I think that might be a way that she could receive it. Well,
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah.
what do you think, Josiah? What do you think?
What do I think?
Yeah.
I think that this is the biggest problem in Catholic dating. But,
Talk.
Oh, you want me to? Okay.
Yeah,
Here we
go.
go. Okay.
I
I think
give
I've
you
said
a
this to
soapbox.
Jason.
Stand
I've
on it.
said this to Jason before, and I will say it on the show publicly. I don't know if I've said this on the show before yet. I think that
Are you
as
going to get
much
us more
as-
shadow banned than we already are?
Gosh, I know.
Just kidding.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
no. That's
Yeah.
literally
Go for
not
it.
possible.
Yeah.
I think that as much as the sexual degenerate culture needed to be counteracted by a large volume of teaching modesty and purity, that I think that we did it in a way that a large percent of young people of my generation didn't understand it. And so I see often young women, this is not me saying, I'm not going to do the whole both sides thing, because it's just an excuse. We don't have to do that. We can just be honest. I see often young women using modesty as an excuse to dress in just like a potato sack, and or they think modesty is literally like making themselves unattractive.
Yeah, it's a little misunderstood. I would agree.
Yeah. And that really frustrates guys, because we can't, it's hard for us to it's frustrating to look at the other gender, the opposite sex, and be attracted to them as women or see them as beautiful as women, but see them not put in the effort for, men are more visual, and see them not put in the effort. But then be constantly preached about how we need to be, as the young men need to be putting in all this effort and doing all this pursuit, but then the women aren't putting in any effort to make themselves something desirable to be pursued.
Do you think
And I'm not saying they don't have inherent worth. I'm just saying, on the dating market kind of thing, if you want to be, if you want demand, you got to give supply, basically.
Now, do you think that part of it maybe the women are wondering, okay, wait a minute, how do I strike that balance of not being seductive and overly flaunting my figure, while at the same time not going to the extreme that you can't even tell I'm a female human being by the burlap sack that I'm wearing or my shapeless plaid ankle-length jumper, and they're wondering okay, where's that line? How close can I get to revealing the gracefulness of my figure or whatever without leading men into an occasion of sin? Because typically the women who are concerned enough about modesty, would rather go perhaps too far in that direction than potentially be an occasion of sin for men. I don't know. I'm just trying to.
No, I know.
I think
in terms of
I think
they're
that is
wondering
a
how to
thing.
strike
I think
that
you're
balance.
I don't.
I think the balance
some
is the
women
problem,
don't
yeah.
know. They haven't been taught. And I see this a lot in high school or junior high when the girls are coming and hitting puberty and the moms aren't teaching them what they need about their femininity, and you can tell the girl's uncomfortable, and there's certain things she just doesn't like about herself, she doesn't know what to do. And some of these women, there's an entire generation of women that have not been taught how to be feminine. I was in that generation. I grew up with, my mom, who was out building empires, and she did the best she could as a single mother. But I didn't have some Martha Stewart at home or a grandmother who was all about the cooking and the cleaning and being this Catholic mom and having this Catholic essence of this Catholic heart running a home like Kimberly Hahn does so well. I had to learn. I came into marriage completely handicapped. I was very aggressive. I was very just, I don't know, just curt almost. I just didn't have that femininity that should have been taught to me, and I think the 60s left my generation motherless, kind of teaching us how to be the heart of the home because it was seen as a weakness at the time. And it really affected an entire generation, and there's a lot of casualties from it. And I suffered in marriage in the beginning. I didn't know how to cook. I didn't know how to clean properly. I mean, I went to the best schools. I had a nanny. I mean, I had all the things done for me, and I felt completely handicapped and useless when it came to running a household, and it can't be that hard, but I had to learn a lot of things. And do I still do it perfectly? No. But I tried. I'm learning. I take care of our children. Obviously, I do what needs to be done, but a lot of these women just aren't taught that. And I was watching this woman's channel. I wish I knew who she was, but she said this story when she went to school. The teacher handed around the entire class of these women, because it was, I think, an etiquette or modesty class or something, right? I don't know. And there was a bowl of candy, and there was one candy that was unwrapped, and the rest of the candies were all wrapped. And she said, okay, everybody just take one. And everybody took one, and the only one that was left over was the unwrapped piece of candy. And this story hit me because she says, why didn't anyone want this piece of candy? Because it didn't have a wrapper, that there could be germs on it, that it was just unwrapped and just there and you just didn't know. And some things, and I'm probably not going to get this right, so don't get mad at me, people watching. But basically, it's like there's something about this sacredness, or just this mystery almost, when you're flaunting everything, that's just taken away. And that can't, nobody wanted the unwrapped candy. And honestly, that's how I used to feel when I was dressing that way and I was sleeping around. Nobody really wanted me, but I didn't know any other way. And it's something they have to learn. And there's plenty of YouTube channels and Instagrams and Pinterest where these women can learn, but they could be really insecure in that. And just give them grace in that as well. And at the same time, there's also, well, I'm not giving in to these misogynist men who are expecting me to look like some little pin-up woman and feed them and clean their household and blah, 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 blah. Hey, I went through that too, okay? It's a thing that you have to go. But at the end of the day, it is about your own healing. It is about how you see yourself as a woman, the things you've experienced, the things you've healed from. It's not about submission. It's not about being less than or under. It's about walking alongside. And we have a specific role within our homes, within our marriage as mothers that God has given us solely. I mean, when God put life into my womb, he left his fingerprint in my womb. And he left everything that I needed to be a mother to that child, period. And it's a gift and it's a grace. And there is this femininity and just embracing your womanhood and your motherhood. And just, it's beautiful, but it's messy and it's hard and you don't understand it. But at the same time, you have everything you need as a woman to do whatever it is God is asking you to do. And that includes being feminine, being graceful, and it may be something that you have to learn, but it can be done. It can absolutely be done, but it's not about being submissive or fulfilling some fantasy. It's more than that. And you're doing it not just for you, but for God, because we want to make Catholic look good. We want to make our vocations look good. I'm not some frumpy stay-at-home mom, just my hair's a mess. I don't take care of myself. I mean, that's what society wants us to think, right? Wow, I have no life and I'm miserable and I'm depressed and I'm just at home cleaning and cooking and I'm just being submissive to this man. I mean, what a load of garbage. I am so fulfilled and happy and loved. And is it hard? Oh, yes. My own healing, I'm still doing it. But at the same time, I am stepping into what God has created me to be, unashamed of that and unapologetic. And so should you as women.
Awesome. We have a call. So I'm going to bring him up. Hopefully he'll ask the question quick and we can do that and then wrap for the night.
Sounds good.
All right. Go ahead and click join stage there. All right, buddy, you can go ahead and ask your question. Just try to be quick about it because we got about 4 minutes left. You're muted. You'll have to unmute your microphone. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, never mind. He went away.
Not happening.
Well,
alrighty then. We're praying for you.
Maybe to put a bow on that, the last one, just I would imagine as a single young adult Catholic male, you probably feel like, well, we got a lot of people in different camps. One camp of the woman being saying look, I can dress however the heck I want. If a guy has bad imagination, that's his problem. I can wear my yoga pants to Sunday mass and I can do this and I can do that. And then on the other side of the spectrum, people dressing in a way that it's, as I had mentioned, it's hard to tell even if they're female or not because they're afraid if the sight of their ankle is going to cause someone to mortally sin. And you probably feel like, where's that healthy middle ground? Where are those ladies out there? And who knows? They might be watching the show, being like, "I'm right here. What are you talking about?"
Or they're mad at us. I don't know.
Tried, like, who knows? But that's my guess, is that you've got virtuous women not knowing quite where to strike the balance when it comes to fashion and modesty. But at the end, modesty is it's a fruit of the Holy Spirit, and it's a mastery over all your exterior acts. It's not about misogyny. It's not about a man can't control his imagination. No, it's a virtue that both men and women need to practice, and it's the mastery over your exterior acts, and that only comes from a living relationship with the Holy Spirit. So when it comes to fashion, I don't know, I haven't dove much into online women's modesty fashion stuff.
Oh, please, if you're being immodest, just get over it. It deep down,
modest,
women.
But feminine and attractive.
I know, but some women are like, well, I'm trying to be
Can you
modest.
do that again? Can I get I'm gonna be a little directory here. Can I get a clean take on the "oh please"?
Oh,
just a clean retake on that.
Oh.
Not that I'm gonna cut that or anything.
Yes, you
Not that
will,
that's
but
great
it's true.
content.
It's just like women know when they're being immodest.
No.
But we're talking about modesty, but also the opposite end of the spectrum to those women watching, that they're like, well, I'm not dressing like that. But sometimes you should be modest, because when you walk out of the house and you shouldn't be wearing that. I know exactly what that's like. And you're like, is this too short? Is this too tight? If you're asking yourself that, yes, it is. Go change.
You already answered your own question.
Because then the whole time that you're out, you're like pulling it down or pulling cover. Yeah. Why? And people see you uncomfortable, but at the same time, just listen to your conscience. Just listen to your conscience. God is speaking to you. He loves you enough to talk to you. Listen. You'll be happier in the end.
Now, during the next week, if questions do come up and you want to submit them here on the show, a couple options. One, you go to live@chastity.com, send an email that way. If you support us on Patreon, Gabriel, we took the call immediately, because anyone who's on the Patreon list, your question goes right up to the top of the list. The support that we get on Patreon helps us to make this whole show possible. This is our last show in this particular studio, because we're moving all this actually into a spare room of our house now that one of the kids is off to college. Like, hey, we're taking that room, we're going to put the studio there, so we have to drive here. But any new stuff we need for the studio, it's the patrons that make the whole thing possible. And so if you go to patreon.com/Jason Everett, you can join the community and support us in any way there. It's a huge gift to us and to our family. Also want to encourage you, please like and subscribe these videos, share these videos. Josiah, and we can maybe cover this next show, uncovered the fact that we actually are shadow banned on YouTube, not just age gated, where it's like, well, this content might not be appropriate for this age group. No, literally shadow banned. I think we should get into that and how you guys can help us to spread this message when YouTube might not be quite as invested in spreading this message. So, Josiah, again, thank you for the time this week and for all the good questions. God bless you all. And
praying
we'll
for
see you guys
you
in 1 week.
God bless.
Hey, guys.